What's up, guys? We're back with another heroic here. Today we are in Azjol-Nerub. One of the shortest heroics, I think, in the entire game. 3 bosses, very quick to run, assuming you don't have any problems with the run. Playing Shadow Priest today versus the Discipline you've been seeing me play in other videos. I like a lot of the changes they've made to Shadow Priest. The addition of the third Devouring Plague is really fun. It's a really cool spell with an upfront damage component. Hits really hard, but can only be afflicted to one mob at a time. So it adds a little bit more engagement to the dot management aspect of the gameplay, which is cool. Other changes, your Inner Fire, like it does for all priests, gives you spell power now, and your Vampiric Embrace, rather than being a dot you apply to a target, is now just a self buff that you put on yourself. Causes a percentage of your damage to be redirected into healing for your party. One of our teammates there. This is the first boss here. You've got these 3 packs to clear before you actually can engage the boss. My experience, this is probably the most challenging area of the dungeon. These mobs actually do hit relatively hard. Also definitely not doing the best of job playing Shadow Priest here. Normally I have a number of weak auras to track my dots and things like that that I don't have right now. I don't think it'll be a problem. I think this dungeon will still be fairly simple. Something else to note about Shadow Priest, your Shadow Weaving is no longer a debuff that gets applied to the target. It's now a debuff that you, or a buff that you stack on yourself. I've been webbed here, see if somebody gets me out. A buff that you apply to yourself that causes a percent damage increase of 10%. So it's important that you reapply your Shadow Word Death after you get those 5 stacks if you're starting a fight without them already stacked up. Run a little low on mana here. See if we can snag some mana before the boss starts. We'll actually drink a potion right now. Alright, yep. Get a chance to get some mana back. This is the first boss here. It doesn't seem too challenging from when I've done it in the past.
This kingdom belongs to the Scourge. Only the dead may enter.
Heroism there, or Bloodlust, because we're playing Horde. So that Mind Flay is interruptible.
Dinner time, my pets.
And then he will summon out these little mobs that die pretty quick. If those mobs stay alive, I believe they'll also afflict you with a little dot. Like, I think these wolves have it on them, actually. Yeah, they despawned before I could get it, but I believe they have that, had that debuff on them. It's, I believe, 500 damage over some percent of time.
The gate has been breached.
So
Quickly,
we're
divert
approaching this
forces.
little arena down here. This is actually where the second boss will come out. We have these Scourge mobs to fight, and they are fighting down below. We see them fighting Hadronox. So Hadronox is one of the living members of the Nerubian race, so he has not been corrupted by the Scourge. So he's at odds with these mobs here, who are members of the Scourge contingent. So they were killed during the War of the Spider and risen by the Lich King to serve the Scourge. And the last boss of this dungeon is Anub Arak, a character from Warcraft 3. He's known as the Traitor King to the living members of the Nerubian race. one of the Lich King's lieutenants. Blizzard does bring him back, actually. You do kill him at the end of this dungeon, but they choose to bring him back to be the final boss of Trial of the Crusader, one of the raids in Wrath of the Lich King. They must have felt that he was too cool to be wasted in such a short dungeon. So yep, here's Hadronox. He made his way up here. I think the smart thing to do is definitely to let him kill off a lot of these mobs. If you can engage him right now, but you would also find yourself in combat with all of those mobs, which, if you're well geared, is probably not a big deal. They're not elites, they're just normal mobs, but probably at the beginning of the expansion, good to let him clean it out a little bit. And looks like here goes our tank going in. So our Paladin healer, okay, yeah, he sees him. He's healing. Got our Shadow Feet here. Get a little mana back for ourselves and do a little more damage. And there you go. So, not a very challenging boss, doesn't seem to do a whole lot. I think the idea of the encounter more revolves around the mobs you fight up to him and then the mobs he's fighting. Azjol-Nerub is part of a sort of underground kingdom of the Nerubians. There's a series of missions in Warcraft 3 that are about this area. Arthas uses it as a shortcut to get to Icecrown. We're going to drop down this hole here. Yeah, Arthas traverses through here in order to get to Icecrown to save the Lich King from Illidan Stormrage. There's also another dungeon that takes place in sort of this Nerubian city, Ankhet, the Old Kingdom. Hopefully I can bring you a run of that as well. Definitely a longer dungeon than this one. But yep, here's a new Barak. We've got these two mobs to fight beforehand. Looks like they've got a little magic dot that they're stacking up. Damage reduced by 9%, so 3% to stack here from this drain power. And here we go.
Eternal agony awaits you!
Nice, I actually got there before my Shadow Weaving stacks dropped, so I can go right into my Shadow Word Pain here. Although I did reapply it because I used my trinket.
Come forth, my brethren! Feast on their flesh!
Get a little mana back from our replenishment there. Just go ahead and use a potion now. I should have used it before we ran into the fight. Avoid these sort of rumblings on the ground here. You'll get knocked up, and then you have to contend with these waves of adds. Do have to restack my Shadow Weaving now, though. See if we can keep ourselves casting. Okay, very good. It came back before it dropped. Love to see it.
Come forth, my brethren! Feast on their flesh!
Managed to get a dot on him before he submerged. I think you have a brief period. Your dots get wiped, but you have a brief period, looks like, where you could reapply them if you're fast enough. Which is kind of fun. Nice little tech there you can do for this fight. we take him down this time so we don't have to go through another submerged
Forth,
phase.
my
No
brethren.
luck. Not sure I got a dot on him or not there. We're lucky we can nab a spirit tab here. Not off that mob at least. A little low on mana, so let's go ahead and do this. Make sure we put ourselves back into shadow form after doing it, though. Try and stack my shadow weaving stacks up as well. And here's back.
Your armor is useless against my locusts.
And there we go. That was Azjol-Nerub, guys.
Free of him.
Very quick one, but thank you for coming along.